We concluded tonight's class with one more exercise to try to really take these great ideas that we would all like to live by and make it real. If you know someone that could benefit, please share and drop a like. Thank you.
It's an amazing exercise. As Eliza said, what do you learn from this? Both images really are there. It depends on your perspective, what you're going to naturally see. It was great that some of you struggled to see the other because that helped the whole point. If it was very easy and obvious for everyone to see both, like, so what? So it was great. I'm really glad some of them were difficult for some of you to see. It's just to live this concept. Both images are really there. It depends on our perspective, what we will naturally see, what we easily see, and what you can see with difficulty. Now, I picked these 5 because I thought these were like, pretty obvious. As I looked, as I went on my computer today, there were some that I like just struggle to see. And it's something to do with just our wiring. Why some things are like, oh yeah, that's so easy, that's so natural, and our eyes flip back and forth and our brain flips back and forth. It's a little disconcerting, but we can sort of do it easily. And some of them, like, we know the other image is there, we can't see it. We can't see it. So I wanted to do this as just to really demonstrate for us, we always have this choice in so many situations in our life. Am I going to see this? Or am I going to see that? Well, which is there? They're both there. They're both there. And I'm going to see the difficult. Am I going to see Hashem's kindness? Am I going to see people being so kind? Am I going to see people being so self-centered? And they're both there. They're both there. And just like here, you have to sort of like look away and reframe your eyes and look back, look away, like to step out from the picture and then look back to re-see the picture. Honestly, as a Chumash teacher, sometimes I would do this if I'm learning a commentary and I'm stuck in a word and I can't figure out how to translate that word. Now, if you're teaching high-level Chumash, it's not like there's a translation somewhere out there. You got to figure it out yourself. And I would literally do this. I would like physically look away and then look back at the page and then suddenly, oh, it just jumped into place what that word was. And a lot of times it's like that in life. A lot of times in life, we have to like consciously, you can only see the negative picture. You only see the not pleasant picture. You only see the negative. Consciously look away, tell yourself, I know there's also a beautiful picture buried somewhere here. I know, because this is Hashem's beautiful world, because Hashem's with me, because this is all part of my journey. I'm confident I'm going to see the beautiful picture, and I want to consciously look away, and then I want to look back, and I want to see the beautiful picture. And that helps it just unfold. The third thing I wanted to do, the final thing about this idea, is for us to right now do this exercise. I said earlier that ideally, as you go about your day, put little checks on a piece of paper for all the times you did it, you were positive, you were happy, you were joyous, you looked good, and write down the details of the times you blew it, and then work on those at night. I'd like everyone to now just do one example to really work through this exercise so you get the idea. Now, obviously, there's not some situation you blew, but not necessarily you're trying to work on this, but think of a negative message, a negative perspective you tell yourself about your children in general, or about one of your children, or anything else in your world that's important to you. Think of some negative message you constantly feed yourself about your spouse, about yourself, about your situation in life, about your parents, about your childhood, anything. Try to reframe it now. Because like right now we're here, right now we just discussed this, right now we just went through it. Reframe it in the positive. She always is so, he deliberately, he never, she can't. Take any one of those and do the work now, just with that one message, not with your whole life and all your traumas and all your situations and every issue with every child. Take one very specific thing and think, if I really was living it, if I really bought in, and I do buy in, perspective shapes reality. I believe it, I know it, I see it, you proved it, I got it. Perspective shapes reality. I want to have a positive perspective on this child, on this issue, on this incident. Right now, try to stretch your mind to reframe this. And again, you don't have to take the biggest, most painful thing you're dealing with in life. Sometimes people like to go for that because if they can only do it once, they want to do it something worthwhile. And sometimes you want to take something simpler, you know, that it's easier to, yeah, I could look at this like this instead of this. I'm making a choice, and let me make a good choice. So someone just said, and I think it's so true, that she finds herself thinking negative when she's exhausted. You know, exhausted, you can add to the list hungry. Alone, for some people, it's when there are no people around to just naturally feed them, the other people in their world energy. Those are the times when we more naturally succumb to this. And it's really good to be aware of that. Because if you're aware, when I'm exhausted is when I look at everything with a negative eye. When I'm overwhelmed, when I have too much on my plate this day and I feel so pressured, that's when suddenly everything gets to me and I see everything so bad. So if you are aware and you've recognized that about yourself, so then you can tell yourself, I know what I'm seeing is not true. I know it's because I'm exhausted. And I'm going to give myself, and maybe that's me, and maybe I can't get past that right now. I can't get past this. When I'm exhausted, everything's going to look bad. But if I remind myself, this is not true. This is because you're exhausted. Don't react too much. You'll regret it later when you're not exhausted. I know how I'm perceiving things right now is not reality. It's my exhaustion. It's my weakness. I didn't feed myself properly today. It's having way too many things right now that I'm juggling. So even if you can't see it positive, you can tell yourself, what I'm seeing is not true. What I'm seeing is colored by my exhaustion, colored by my physical weakness at the moment, colored by all the pressures I have on myself right now. I'm still going to see negative, but at least I can put a little distance between myself and that by acknowledging it's not real. It's my exhaustion. Hey, I don't know, as I was talking, if anyone was working. So if you weren't, start working. And if you were, again, take something that you looked at negatively today or something that you always look at negatively. It's easiest and very significant if you think of like some trait in your child or your spouse or in yourself. Negative versus positive is very applicable to ourselves as well. Blue Rebbe many times writes that gossiping is also true about yourself. Lashon hara is also true about yourself. So bashing yourself and being negative about yourself is no godly state. It's just as wrong as doing it about anyone else. So think of something that you generally look at with a bad eye and try to reframe it. In one of my other classes, in my Noachai class actually, a woman, she said this story many times. You know, I mean, I never gave a class like this specifically, but just, you know, comes up every once in a while. And she says for so many times, it's such a big thing in her life. She says how when her children were young and each child had one trait that was driving her crazy. And she, for each one of them, like created oh, my patient and kind Mary, you know, oh, my brave and courageous John. And she literally just kept saying that to her kids. Oh, brave and courageous John, so nice to see you. Oh, patient and loving Mary. I mean, it's a little bit much, but she literally said she did this. It was driving her crazy, but she really saw them change. She really saw them change. She really saw, even though it was like how she was doing it, I'm not saying that's how we should do it, but it was conveying a certain point. This is what you are. This is how I see you. This is the true you, even though I don't see it at all, but I'm believing in it very strongly. And they said every one of them shifted exactly to that title. It's really powerful, especially how a mother can help her children through this technique. Did anyone manage to do things? You don't have to say what, but you can raise your hand your virtual hand if you did. My talking might have been too distracting. For some of us, it might be hard to think of things we look at with a negative eye. And for some of us, it might be hard to think of, how can I look at it besides this way? This is what it is. So we have two people that successfully figured out something they see negative and figured out a way to shift that to positive. So that's a two-step process. And some of us are breaking down that we can't think of anything we look at with a negative eye. And some of us can't think how in the world you see it besides this way, because this is what it is. Okay, I got another one.
Thank you, Aliza. Good. Okay. Well, I guess we will end at this point. I really wanted to do this exercise. Amazing that about half the people managed to, in a space of less than 5 minutes, managed to identify something they look at with a negative eye. And that might have been hard, like, negative eye, what do I look at with a negative eye? Because we can't even see that we're looking at it with a negative eye. We can't even see that we're looking at it with the wrong perspective, because that's just how we look at it. Finding that thing that you could honestly see you're looking at with a negative eye is the first, not so easy step. And then the second step, which for some people is much harder, is saying, but that's what it is. You know, how else do you look at it? And like really, just like we did with those optical illusions, you look away, you reshift your eyes, you look back. You look away, even like very physically, shift your eyes and look back. Look at it a new way of looking at this. Very often, especially with children, strengths and weaknesses are like two sides of the same coin. So, you know, if this child is such a crybaby, and you think like, wow, I'm so proud that they're so sensitive. And every time they're going into, they have such sensitivity. They're going to be such a great empath. You know, very, you know, again, it's a little easier sometimes with children to do that with than with adults, but it's true. You're not saying anything not true. Wow, he's so stubborn. Always has to get his way. Wow, this kid is so strong-willed. He's going to conquer the world for good, with good. You've got such strength. I'm so proud of your strength. I love your strength. You are changing the world with your strength. Use it for good. You're going to make wherever you go a different place. Both true. Say actually the exact same thing. Just saying in the negative, saying in the positive. It's a general rule. Strengths and weaknesses are very often the same issue. It's just how they're framed. You know, what's the window dressing around them? How are we looking at them? With that eye or with that eye? Okay, so we are going to stop at this point. If you did not manage to create something, which I honestly didn't because I was too much talking to think, I tried to in between, but I'm going to try now because I want to do this for myself. I want to give myself this gift. If you didn't manage, stop now, find something you're looking at with a negative eye and reframe it positive. If you did manage, great. At least with this one concept, take this as your homework. Walk with this. If you didn't manage, create it and then walk with it. And as we do from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, even when we're exhausted, even when we're drained, we should be enough in this mode that we can still see it's a good world and we have a good life. And as we look at the good, we see the good coming back to us. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful working very hard on this.
Yeah.